Hi, in this video we will talk about cultural heritage and sustainable development in the United Nations agendas, the 2013 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the New Urban Agenda. The first one, the 2013 Agenda for Sustainable Development, was adopted by all the United Nations member states in 2015. This agenda proposes a transformative vision towards the economic, social and environmental sustainability, and the agenda is the result of the most participatory consultation process in the history of the United Nations and represents a multilateral consensus between governments and diverse actors, members of the civil society, members of the private sectors and other actors. This agenda is the guide reference for the work of the international community until the year 2030. And the core of the agenda is the 17 Sustainable Development Goals with their all targets. This agenda proposes a plan to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. Under the definition of the agenda, we have that the agenda proposes an integrated approach about sustainable development, which means that each intervention, intervention in one area will affect outcomes in other areas. So the development in the vision of the agenda must balance environmental, economic and social sustainability. So we can see in these diagrams the integrated approach that the agenda proposes. Related with the New Urban Agenda, this agenda was adopted at the United Nations Conference Habitat 3 in Quito, Ecuador in 2016. This agenda contributes to the achievement of the goals proposed in the 2013 agenda. In this agenda, the local governments and urban and territorial policy have an important position, a central position. And this agenda, for the first time, proposes a correlation between urbanization, development, and the improvement of the quality of life in all the cities. So, in the context of the United Nations agendas, what about culture and cultural heritage? Well, the concept of sustainable development adopted by the United Nations assumes cultural development as a cross-cutting issue that permeates the other pillars. So, no one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals treats or explicitly bring the cultural and cultural heritage in the text, but we have implicit mentions about cultural heritage and culture. Such we will see in the next slide. So, in the goal number 4, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all, we have in the target 4.7, education for sustainable development and global citizenship. Under this target, we are talking about, among other issues, about cultural diversity and the protection and preservation of this cultural diversity. The next goal, the goal number 8, promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment and decent work for all. Under the target 8.3, promote policies to support job creation and growing enterprises. We are talking about, among other issues, about the cultural industry and all the heritage jobs created related with rehabilitation of buildings, revitalization of monuments, and other activities. Until in the goal number 8, promote sustainable and inclusive and sustainable economic growth full of productive employment and decent work for all. In the target 8, number 9, we have promote beneficial and sustainable tourism. Well, as we can see, tourism is an important activity that generates economic benefits related with cultural heritage and culture in general. So is one of the targets to searching. Here in the goal number 11, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. We have the target 11.4, protect the world's culture and natural heritage. So this is self-explained. We are talking about intangible and tangible cultural heritage, urban heritage, and the meaning of this presentation is under this target. In the goal number 12, ensure sustainable consumption and production partners. The target number 12B, we have develop and implement tools to monitor sustainable tourism. So as we saw, tourism is an important activity related with culture and cultural heritage and in the city. So it's important to implement tools to monitor this tourism. So this tourism can't be dangerous for the urban heritage. Here, under the new urban agenda, the points that are related with culture and heritage will be the point number 10, that talks about the contribution of the culture in sustainable consumption and production patterns. In the point 26, we have that culture understanding as a key element for the humanization of the cities. In the point 38, the agenda recognizes the important role of the culture in the revitalization and rehabilitation of urban areas and the important role in the social participation. In the new urban agenda, in the points 45 and 60, the cultural heritage are understanding as an important role for the vibrant, sustainable and inclusive urban economics and in sustaining and supporting urban economics. Point 124 recognized the cultural heritage as a priority component in urban plans and strategies in the adoption of planning instruments such as revitalization plans, development infrastructure plans, and other kind of urban plans. So in this frame, cultural heritage and landscapes must be protected from potential disruptive impacts of urban development. These points, the point 124 and the points 45 and 16, talk about this kind of protection, the protection from potential disruptive impacts of urban development. So, the conclusion of this presentation is that the economic, social, cultural and environmental systems are not isolated, but they are interconnected. In this context, we can say that cultural heritage can be considered as the glue among the different dimensions of sustainable development. This is the vision adopted by the United Nations agendas, the 2013 agenda and the new urban agenda. And these words are from Francesca Nocca in the published The Role of Cultural Heritage in Sustainable Development.
Well, Etxea, the UNESCO Center in the Basque Country, is an association that works in the Basque Country and through international alliances to promote United Nations and especially UNESCO's values and programs within the citizens. We aim to promote human rights and sustainable development and encourage all stakeholders to be active defending them. And for us, culture is a very important part of sustainable development and the Agenda 2030. We understand culture as a very broad concept that includes tangible and intangible heritage, diversity of expressions and creation and cultural activities, as well as values and mindsets and understanding how we interact with our environment, with other humans. Thus said, for us, culture has a very strong role in Agenda 2030. Heritage contributes to develop an idea of identity, and diversity brings in cohesion and creativity to solve the challenges and issues that we face ahead. But more than that, culture contributes to change the mindsets, the very much needed mindset that we need to change to achieve sustainable development for every person all around the world. At the beginning of the construction of the Agenda 2030, UNESCO and other international stakeholders, including us, Etxea, we carried out a very strong effort to make sure that culture was very well reflected in the Agenda 2030. We have to say that we feel that this is not as reflected as we expected, but we nevertheless understand that culture has a very strong, powerful contribution to Agenda 2030. And we have to say that the topic that brings us here today, SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, does reflect very well how culture contributes to building sustainable cities. There are many ways in which culture can contribute to achievement of SDG 11. Actually, UNESCO has developed several programs, recommendations, and documents that help to make visible and make a pathway to include culture and the full potential of culture towards sustainable cities. Let me highlight the Hangzhou Declaration, or the document, the report, UNESCO's report on urban future, and of course the new urban agenda, all of them recognizing and giving place to culture as a key factor for sustainable and inclusive urban development. Several examples on how culture contributes to sustainable development in cities and management include the role of local governments in promoting culturally appropriate policies and activities that take into account all cultural identities in its city, promoting participation, diversity, creativity to find solutions to these challenges that we face in cities. Let us remind that by 2050, 7 out of 10 people will live in cities all around the world, cities where environmental, economic, social and cultural efforts converge together, converse one to each other and bring and build together the settings of the cities. Not only the urban settings, but also the social settings very much needed. Diversity of cultural expressions, diversity of identities and inclusive dialogue to bring vulnerable groups towards the public decision processes and the construction of cities is key to achieve this sustainability. Another example could be promoting sustainable consumption and production, which is not only SDG 11, but SDG 12, that promotes reflection towards citizens on what we consume, how we consume, and how through cultural habits we can change that patterns and have a less impact into the environment and into the social spheres. Another project or program that UNESCO has put in place that is very successful and I would like to highlight is UNESCO's Creative Cities Network. This is a program that started in 2004 and that nowadays counts almost 250 cities all around the world, one of them being Bilbao, which is a creative city for design, and it's a program in which we, as UNESCO Etxea, collaborate very closely with the Deusto Cities Lab, and that aims at bringing together cities that have put creativity and innovation, cultural innovation, as a strategic factor for the city construction, culture and creativity as a key driver of the city development, as inclusion, as economic development, as interaction with nature and with cultural expressions through creativity, through design like Bilbao, or literature, music, filmmaking and other creative spheres. We develop a shared dialogue all around the world. Let us not forget that COVID-19 has impacted all cities all around the world and has brought a very damaged effect on all stakeholders, being the cultural and creative stakeholders one of the most affected due to the vulnerability. It's important to pay special attention to the role that creators have in healing the damage caused by COVID and protect and give us the relevance that creators and cultural stakeholders have, so that they can continue to contribute to healing and building back our societies. Absolutely. I would like to highlight the example of Etxea's museum. Etxea's museum is a museum that works here in Bilbao, highlighting and promoting and communicating a very specific part of our heritage, the maritime cultural heritage. This is a heritage that has had a very strong effect in building Bilbao and Vizcaya's identity, history, culture and economy, and that needs to be known better by all society. Etxea's museum, for example, has opened up to the city and to different people, adapting their spaces to diversities, their activities to engage with people of different backgrounds, ages and so forth. This Etxea's museum for us is a very good example of UNESCO's recommendation to protect and promote the museums and collections, their diversity and their role in society. Examples of what they do is, for example, the opening of a Carol Iglesias space. Carol Iglesias is a woman that gives name to the Carola, a very emblematic crane outside of next to the museum, but is also a landmark in all Bilbao. And this space, the Carol Iglesias space, is aiming at bringing visibility to the role of women in the industry and the maritime history, a history that has reached nowadays very much influenced by a masculine vision, but that needs to recognize the role that women had made throughout history. Another example is the Erain project, in which riverbank carpentry is shared with, is taught to young people by teachers, by senior retired citizens, and is teaching techniques, shipyard building techniques to these young people that are in vulnerable situations, and is aiming, the Erain project is aiming at teaching techniques that are in risk of being lost, but also build intergeneration dialogue, build intercultural dialogue, and share this heritage within different types of groups of stakeholders. Etxea's museum, all in all, is working very hard to protect, communicate and share our maritime heritage, a heritage that is maybe not very old in history, but has shaped our identity and our environment very much here in Bilbao and Vizcaya. Well, culture for social transformation is a key area for Unesco Etxea. We understand that culture has a very strong capacity to transform our societies. So we have put in place several programs, two of them I will explain here today. One of them is Gizarte. Gizarte is a network of artistic educators for social transformation. It's a network that we lead in Unesco Etxea and that currently has more than 70 members all around the Basque Country. We, as educators, cultural practitioners and human rights defenders, join together to promote how culture helps to change these mindsets, to put people in the center of our decisions. We work on the basis of diversities, feminism, human rights, sustainable development and co-creation as triggers for this social transformation. So in Gizarte we develop several programs, one of them being education and arts in schools, that brings artists to schools to work together with students and to reflect and to learn artistic techniques through the perspective of human rights and sustainable development. We develop indicators to see how is the impact of these activities in the classrooms and how we can improve the impact. And we also work here locally in partnership, but internationally, because we understand that there are many practitioners all around the world that want to use or put the creations towards a better future for all of us. Another example of activities or a program that we develop is Ondare App. This is a program that is aimed at bringing younger generations to cherish, understand and promote heritage as part of our identity. Tangible and intangible heritage are part of what we are today, and by learning and cherishing our own heritage, we learn to respect and promote other people's heritage. So we have developed several tools that use those that younger people are more familiar with, like Instagram, online challenges or treasure hunting, to promote their own reflection on what is the heritage that surrounds them, what are other heritage from other cultures and societies, and to help them identify what heritage is and what it means to them. So all in all, as you can see, culture is a basic element for Unesco Etxea. We understand that we have to promote the capacity of culture to construct a better present and a better future for everyone, contributing to Agenda 2030, SDGs and human rights.